Good evening, everyone. I'm Carrie Cronin, Assistant Director at the York Public Library. Welcome to tonight's program on coastal tourism and sustainability. This program is part of our 2025 Climate Change Series, Coastal Impacts and Resources, and it is co-sponsored by York Public Library, York Ready for Climate Action, and York Land Trust. After tonight's program, we'll have just a few more talks in the series. The next one will be helping coastal towns to adapt on April 23rd, an invasive plant removal day on April 29th, and the York Land Trust native plant sale on May 10th. So popularly referred to as Vacationland, Maine hosted 15.3 million visitors in 2023, with tourism a major driver of the state's economy. Tonight, we're going to learn from two hospitality experts, Haven Hatch, who's the COO of the Crane Hotel Group here in York, Maine, and Rauni Kew, who is the PR and Green Program Manager of Inn by the Sea in Cape Elizabeth, Maine. We're going to learn the creative ways that Maine resorts have adapted their facilities, practices, and services to become more sustainable. So each speaker will have about 20 minutes to talk a little bit about their work. And then if you have questions as they're speaking, if you could put them in the chat, I will start with some general questions after both presenters have shared information about their businesses and their work. And then we'll take questions from all of you. So thank you for being here and welcome, Haven Hatch.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so I can present my slides. So give me just a moment to do that. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, first of all, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to the York Library for putting this on. What a great series. I'm really excited to see the last of the ones that are going. But as you said, I'm Haven. I run operations over at the Crane Hotel Group. And I'll talk a little bit more about Crane Hotel Group in my next slide. But I'm going to talk about myself first. So I grew up here in town, and I started my summers in hospitality. So I did everything from bussing tables, cleaning rooms, working the front desk, all of that stuff. But when I went off to go to school, I actually did my undergraduate degree in environmental science. Loved science growing up, and growing up in Maine, how could you not love the outdoors? So it's kind of a easy connection there. And I actually worked in the environmental space for a little while before joining back in hospitality. I worked in environmental education for a while, and then I did a brief stint in sustainable aquaculture as well. And it was a super, super rewarding career. I loved working in the environmental and sustainability space. But in 2020, I found myself, like a lot of people, working from home at a desk, and I was super restless, and I was presented with an opportunity to join the Crane Hotel Group full time. So I jumped back into that space. So for those who don't know, what is Crane Hotel Group? So we own and operate 3 hotels here in York. So the Viewpoint, Stones Throw, and the Nevada. And then we have restaurants at all 3 of those. So Stones Throw has Stones Throw. The Viewpoint has a restaurant called the Little Lock, and the Nevada has a restaurant called Lulu's. So Crane Hotel Group was founded by Michelle and Joe. They are also locals to town here. They also raised their 2 children here. And in about, I think, maybe like 2 weeks, their first grandchild is going to be born also here in York. So deeply, deeply rooted here in town. They're partners with Chris and Liz Crane, and they're really, the whole team is really great. And one of the reasons that I felt confident in making the jump from environmental science to working in hospitality with them is that they have always had an environmental thinking path instead of doing what's trendy or doing what's cheap. So I didn't have to compromise any of my goals or my morals when I joined them full time. So their goal has always kind of been simple, that long-term economic and environmental thinking. So I'm going to dive into some of the things that we do. So biggest one is going to be our infrastructure. So if you are York locals, you might know about this project that we did. So in 2022, we started the renovation at our Viewpoint property. So we created these new rooms. We built 7 rooms into the seaside of our Viewpoint property. And when we did this, we spent about 3 years designing them before we broke ground, and they were really well thought out. So one of the things here that's featured is that they have these large roof overhangs that improve the heating and cooling efficiency up to 25% for these rooms. They're also made of formed poured concrete, which is inspired by the French Community Party headquarters in Paris, and it works with the natural environment. So really cool design options. They're kind of low tech, but they have a really high impact, and they also look really cool. So this is an aerial view of those same rooms. Our original structure at Viewpoint is set back. That's that white building right there. And then those ones that are built into the side, sometimes people call them bunkers or hobbit holes. We call them our shoreside rooms. But those actually have green roofs on top of them. And it's the first commercial grass roof in Maine. And we're really excited about those. They regulate temperature. They help with stormwater. They've got a lot of efficiency. They also look really cool. And as you can see in this particular picture, the upper one is where we host weddings. So we have about 40 couples a year who come from all over to get married on this lawn. My event director actually had a couple fly in from Australia this week to come tour to see our wedding venue to potentially get married up there. So really great efficiency, but they also just look super cool. Which is great. When we did this restoration, or not restoration, this new build, we also did a lot of landscaping work. We brought in a lot of native plants, which are kind of featured throughout the whole property, that are low maintenance. They're better for water control. We don't have to overwater them. They bloom all season from spring through fall, which is really lovely. They create a great habitat for the animals in this area. And I think right here is one of our really, really amazing moments. I think this was last year. We had a bald eagle that was on our property for a little while. So hopefully this video plays and everyone can see it. Let's see. So this is the view looking outside of one of those shoreside rooms, and this bald eagle lived in that tree on and off. So a lot of our guests got this really wonderful experience to see that. I'll keep going. Let's see. One of the other things that we've added is electric vehicle charging stations at all of our locations. So all 3 of our hotels have these, which is great. So we have 4 total at Long Sands, so 2 at our Stone Store property, 2 at our Nevada property. These have been really great because we've actually even seen people come to our property who might not have joined us, but they're stopping to use our EV charger, and then they're popping over to Stone's Throw to grab a quick bite, or same thing at Viewpoint. They're pulling into Viewpoint, they're stopping there to get a quick charge, and they're going over to a Little Lock and enjoying some of our food there. So these have been really great, and it just removes barriers for some of our guests who might pick and choose certain hotels on the ability to charge their vehicle. So that's a great option there that we added. We also converted our pool to a saltwater pool. So it's a better experience for the guests. It's also less harmful chemicals that can, make their way into the environment. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about our other property. So Nevada, if you are from York or you're familiar with York, you probably know the Nevada property. It was an iconic building built in the 1950s. We purchased that in 2021, I believe, and it was opened last year on 4th of July weekend, which if you're in the hospitality industry, don't open a business on 4th of July weekend. It's crazy. But this project was really fun. There was a lot of talk in town of this property getting scooped up by either a big hotel or by an investor and getting torn down and turned into either quick sell condos or some big massive hotel. And so we were really excited that we were able to secure this property and restore it. So if you've driven by it, we kept the same shape, we kept the iconic color. We moved it 3.5 feet out of the flood zone. So we actually raised the building. We put motion censored lights in here, heating and cooling units, on-demand hot water, kind of, I think the phrase is it's ahead of the curve now because of that curved building. So we really brought it up to speed with as much tech as we could, with also honoring the iconicness of that building. So there we have the unsexy tech. So updating the property with heat pumps, more efficient on-demand hot water, all of those types of things. A lot of stuff behind the walls that the guests might not even know are in there. So those are the infrastructure things. The other way we try and do our best for the environment is through our products, our partners, and our everyday practices. So Blue Land is our cleaning products. So they are a climate neutral and safer product, safer for the guests, safer for the environment, safer for our team that's using them. They are tablets instead of shipping water, which, costly CO2 emissions. So they're condensed tablets. We use the same plastic bottles for months and months and months, where we pop that tablet in, we use our own tap water, shake it up, and then we've got cleaning products. So this has been a really great thing for us. It's reduced our costs, and it's just been all around better for everyone. We also partner with a company called Clean the World. So we switched to bulk amenities. So if you've ever been to a hotel, you get those single use almost shampoos, conditioner, soap. We switched to bulk products. So again, reducing our plastic waste there. And what happens is you get that little residual amount in the bottom. And normally that would just get thrown away. So this program with Clean the World is they take that residual amount, they refine it, and then they process it into amenities that they can ship all over the world. So instead of just throwing something in the trash or throwing it in the recycling, it's actually going and getting all of the use out of it. It's been a really great program for us. We also use Mr. Fox composting. So if you're here in town, you've probably seen them. All of our food waste from our kitchen goes in there, and we even added compost bins in all of our rooms that feature a kitchen or a kitchenette. So you have your trash recycling and you have your compost, so guests are seeing it. And we had a wonderful full circle moment last year at Lulu's, where we had flowers on the table that were grown locally in the compost that came from our food. And we did a little reel on that. That was super fun. So it was this food being consumed and then goes in this bin, turns into soil, turns into these beautiful flowers, and then it comes back onto the table, which was really, really fun. And that's kind of what this whole sustainability thing is about, is that closed looped full circle moments. One of these things, we actually just partnered with Foxfold. So this is new to us, but we're really, really excited about it. In the hospitality world, when you are going in and cleaning a room, you normally end up with a toilet paper that looks like this, and you're going to toss it because you don't want to check into your room with almost all the toilet paper gone. So we spend a lot of money on those. We try and do our best to move them into, a staff bathroom to use them, but sometimes they get tossed, which is wasted product and wasted money. So what Foxfold did is they're a company that created refillable toilet paper dispensers and refillable tissue boxes. So we just invested in all of these, and instead of shipping, bulky tissue boxes, it's compressed in compostable packaging, and we just keep refilling them and refilling them. And we don't have any more toilet paper rolls that we're throwing away. We don't have that little cardboard insert we're throwing away, and we reduce a lot of the shipping costs and the emissions that are getting that happen when you have to ship bulkier, heavier things. So those are just a couple of those things. We also do, so much more, but I don't want to take up all of our time talking about that. But we, like I said, we do our bulk amenities. We do compostable to go everything. So our straws are compostable. boxes, utensils, all of that stuff. We switched from canned water to bottled water in our guest rooms so that aluminum is infinitely recyclable. So we're just doing all these little things. I mentioned the compost bins. We do the traditional linens refreshed only upon request. So we're reducing our water use there. Everything that we put into the rooms, we try and do our best to source in a compostable packaging. Motion sensored lights, our landscape lighting is solar powered. So all these little things add up. And that's, one of the things we used to teach a lot about at my old job was it all adds up. So little things make a big difference, whether it's recycling that bottle or switching to a once a week having a meatless meal. Those things really do make a big impact. We always try and innovate. We know that there is more to do. It is a journey. It is not a checklist because there's always more things to do. One of the things that I've been working on for so long, and if anyone has any leads on this, I cannot find compostable oyster cracker packets. Those are impossible to find. And creamers. So pre-COVID, we actually used to take cartons of creamer and put them in little glass containers and put those in the room. And then we couldn't do that after COVID. And so now we're using those, single-use creamers. But I would love to find some kind of compostable option for that. But we're always looking for ways to improve more. We're always looking for what's the next fun tech thing that we can do. What's, a practice that we just didn't know about. And I know Rauni's going to talk about a lot of awesome stuff in hers. Even just listening to her speak, I was like, oh, wow, they're doing this, this, and this. And I want to be able to incorporate all of that. But I think that's all I have. But we just want our guests to come here to feel really connected, to feel like we care. We want it to be more than just a vacation. We want them to feel like they're choosing a place that's preserving Maine's natural beauty and giving back to that. So I think that's all I have, but thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Haven. That's fantastic. So I'm just going to share my screen so I can pull up Rauni Kew's slides. One moment. Okay. Welcome, Rauni Kew from In by the Sea. I think you need to unmute.
Thank you.
Perfect.
It seems to be moving by itself, Carrie.
Okay.
Needs to go back to the beginning. Sorry. So thank you for having us. This is terrific. I'm so glad people are interested in sustainability. I've been at the Inn by the Sea for 24 years. I'm the Green Program Manager, and we've been traveling this path for 24 years. We, like Haven, still feel that we have a lot more to do. But this is the Inn by the Sea. You can see we're very close to the beach. We've got a beautiful 125-acre freshwater pond behind the inn. We have this very privileged location, very close to a gorgeous beach. And so it really just calls out to be preserved and protected for future generations. So as I said, we've been traveling this green path for about 24 years. We started with a People, Planet, Profit program, which really was introduced in 1993 by an economist named Elkington. And what he said was corporations really need to have a triple bottom line. They need to consider people, that is the people who allow them to be successful. They also need to consider the environment to be really profitable. And that was the model that we worked on for many, many years. But 3 years ago, we joined something that is flashing by there. I don't know why. The second slide, yeah, Beyond Green. 3 years ago, we joined something called Beyond Green, and it really is a People, Planet, Profit program. However, the language is a little different because they use the UN sustainable tourism language. So you can see it's environmentally friendly, it's taking care of community, and it's just the same as People Planet Profit. So it's been great for us. Are we able to stop this from moving like that, or maybe it's timed?
You might be able to present it just with the bars on the side so it
Yeah,
doesn't keep
just
moving.
present it with the bars on the side. That's absolutely fine. That's great. Anyway, we've been doing this, as I said, for 24 years, and we've really worked on sustainability in two ways. One has been design features, and the other has really been guest programming. And I'm going to run through the design features really quickly because that's not so much fun. I really think the programming is a lot more fun. So next slide, please. Great. So, some of the amenities that we have in our bathrooms, we have aerators on all of our water faucets. We have dual flush toilets. I think we were the first in New England to have dual flush toilets. We have reusable glass bottles in the rooms for water, which are refilled and washed every day. We compost about 1,000 pounds of yard waste and food waste. We use green cleaning solutions, and you can go to the next one. We're going to run through these really quickly. Some of the design features are that we heat our pool with solar panels. We use a bromide pool cleaning system, which is really salt, which is much better. We have air-to-air heat exchangers inside the inn, which really mix the cooled air and the heated air with fresh air on a constant basis, but really saves a lot of energy. 95% of the property is LED. We have 7 EV charging stations. They're all level 2s. We started with EV charging with Teslas in 2008. And we only had, I think, a couple of Teslas go through every now and then. And now all 7 of our charging stations are being used all the time, which is wonderful. Next slide, please. So the inn, 100% of our energy is sourced from a solar farm in South Thomaston. So that is fairly new to us. This has been going on for a couple of years, and we're really pleased. Even when you plug into one of our chargers, you're traveling with energy from the sun. So that is terrific. Next slide, please. So our spa got recycled sheetrock walls, recycled cork floors, even the studs are recycled. We have no VOC paint, carpets, and wall covering throughout the inn. And we did a huge renovation in 2006, and 70% of the construction waste was recycled. We took the inn right back to the studs, and we were able to recycle 70% of the construction waste. Next slide, please. So in the dining room, we always have vegan options, vegetarian options. We work with the Cape Farm Alliance here. We try and source our food regionally. We've been culinary members of the Gulf of Maine Research Institute, and we really work hard to serve responsibly harvested and underutilized seafood. 10 years ago, we joined a program out of the blue, and for 5 years, we only served the 5 underutilized, underloved species that were abundant in the Gulf of Maine, but that fishermen were actually able to land. It was a very popular program, and it really was educational for our guests to understand the seasonality of seafood, but also to order what is abundant and what is in season. So it was really an education for both our chefs as well as the community. We have an annual seafood celebration with an ice bar in the middle of the winter, and we put a big grill outside and we celebrate local seafood every February. And any money that is made from that goes to Full Plates, Full Potential. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So we also support our community. We support all of the not-for-profits in our community. These are just some of the programs that we do. We work with the schools. We have a Books for a Booking program in the winter. We have been doing our Habitat for Humanity discount on rooms if you come in and hand us a check for at least $35 written out to Habitat for Humanity. Sunday through Thursday, you get 50% off your room rate. And we are up to $20,000 in $35 checks right now to hand off to Habitat for Humanity, working with the Hospitality Maine group. So next slide, please. And of course, we also sponsor and have community events. One of my favorite events is the pumpkin carving. We've been doing this for 20 years as well. We have pumpkins, hot chocolate, cookies. We invite the community to come in and carve pumpkins, and we usually get about 450 people. We help sponsor the tree lighting in Cape Elizabeth. We just do a lot with our community. We also love having school children come and visit the inn and do beach cleanings, and we do story circles and tell them about the endangered species and how they can help out at the beach and really preserve and protect. Next one, please. So these are just some of the things that we do for the community. And I think I'm going to talk about the dog adoption program a little later, but it is definitely our most popular community program, and it certainly gets people interested in what else we are doing. We work with the Animal Refuge League. The Inn by the Sea has been dog friendly for 25 years. And because we're so dog friendly and because we're profitable, because we're dog friendly, we reached out to the Animal Refuge League and said, okay, what can we do to you? You're a not-for-profit in our community. How can we help? And they said, well, let it help market these dogs, give them a broader audience. And so we do foster dogs at the inn, and we're up to about 95 dogs that have spent time at the inn that have been adopted. So they're just a great ambassador for what it is that we do and some of our other community partnerships. Could you move on, please? So why do we do all of this? And I think our industry and tourism to survive needs to really pay attention to all of the studies that have been done with travelers. And they're really telling us that they care about sustainability. They really are concerned about the negative impacts that their trips have on both communities and the environment. And you can see by the programs, some of the studies that have been done on the right, it's a majority of people who feel this way. They really worry about the negative impacts on communities and the environment. They want us to step up and take care of these beautiful places. Usually hotels are in beautiful places, and people are interested in tourism. It takes them to historical places, beautiful places, often environmentally sensitive places. They want us to preserve and protect them. But they also want to be inspired when they travel. They want to know what it is that we are doing. So a lot of what we do actually addresses those three concerns. Next slide, please. And again, what we're doing is really about just trying to preserve and protect for future generations. When I was born, 66% of the planet was wilderness. And we're down to, now they tell us, about 20% of the planet. And that's just not enough wilderness to absorb human activity. So anytime we have the opportunity to remove invasive plants and replace with native plants, anytime that you can put in anything that is native to the area that is good for biodiversity, it's really important to the environment. So that is the kind of thinking that we have at the inn. If you could move to the next slide, please. So some of the programs that we have, I think these are far more fun than all of the design features that we have. We're really trying to both educate, but also connect our guests to this beautiful location that we have, and to give them some information or some ideas that they might want to take home. So one of the things that we've been doing for the last 20 years is we have a Bugs Life program for kids. They dress like bugs. They wander around the landscape. They look at our butterfly gardens. They look at chrysalis. They see butterflies coming out of them. They look at birds' nests. They learn about the ecosystems that surround our inn. They get to pick blueberries. They do all kinds of things. But it's really about teaching them about the local ecosystem. We do garden tours. All of the gardens all of the plantings that we have in the ground around the inn are all native, and they were very purposely put in for habitat and food sources for wildlife. So we do garden tours for our guests. We have a tidal pool experience that our Cape Land Trust does, where families learn about climate change, the warming waters of the Gulf of Maine, and they also spend some fun time in the tidal pools, learning about some of the wonderful creatures that are there. We do beach ecology walks, again, what talks about climate change and the impacts of climate change on our coastal communities. And then we also have our habitat. The picture at the bottom in the middle, we have worked with the state park, and we took over management of several acres of land that had been completely taken over by a nasty invasive, the Japanese knotweed. It's bamboo. We spent a lot of time removing bamboo, and we replanted with a perfect habitat for the New England cottontail, which was on the red list an endangered species in 2006. And in 2006, we were following Gulf of Maine Research, Rachel Carson, Fish and Wildlife, as they wandered through the woods adjacent to the inn, and we discovered that we had picked up scat for 69 distinct bunnies right next to the inn. So when we replanted the areas where we had removed the Japanese knotweed, we replanted with the perfect habitat for New England cottontails. And that is the sheet and towel card that is in the rooms. It says, you know, we don't change your sheets and towels every day because it saves a lot of energy, it saves water, it saves chemicals, it also saves labor. So we are giving that money back to habitat restoration and to preserve and protect a local species. Now, when people see the bunny on the card, of course, nobody's going to insist that they have their seat changed because bunnies are adorable. Everybody wants to help the bunnies. So it really is a terrific program for us. Next slide, please. Last year, we started a new program. We actually started it last year, but for every guest reservation we plant a tree for our guests. We work with somebody called Hotels for Trees. We plan to plant about 7,000, 8,000 trees a year. Our first tree planting was with a project that was going in Colorado to replace the trees that had been burned in one of the Western forest fires. They needed 300,000 trees, and our little donation of trees is obviously a very small donation towards what they needed. But I'm happy to say that that project has been completed now. The wonderful thing about that project, too, is we were able to source the little trees that were being planted from New Mexico Navajo tribes. So we were working with Native people, and the trees were being planted, which was terrific. We're now about ready to start another project, but we will plant about 7,000 trees. And this just all goes back to, you know, reforestation and rewilding wherever possible. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that we had removed all of the Japanese knotweed from these acres in the park. One of the things that we do that our guests love too, as well as all of the locals, is the state park in front of us is actually filled with invasive plants. And so we bring in and we take care of a herd of goats. They come in and they just love invasive plants. They take down the Japanese knotweed very efficiently. And they're very entertaining for guests, but it also opens up a conversation about the importance of native plants for habitat and resources for local wildlife and for the biodiversity and health of ecosystems. Next slide, please. So just to make it more fun for the guests, and again, to have these wonderful conversations about pollinator gardens and local plantings and how important they are, We also bring in baby goats or Nubian goats to the manager's cocktail event. Guests get to hold the goats, play with the goats, and have a wonderful time with the goats. And that opens up all kinds of conversations as to why we have goats at cocktail events at the inn. So great, great start to terrific conversations around and education. Thank you. Next slide. So again, this is just about the dogs. As I said, we've had over 90 dogs now come and stay at the inn. The wonderful thing about the dog program is that we will get a rescue, we will love it, take care of it, give it its meds, and then it will be adopted and leave us. But so often when our guests adopt these dogs, they come back with them and we get to see these dogs living their best life. But as I said, they've really been a terrific ambassador for us because when somebody comes into the inn and they see a rescue dog here, they ask why. And then we say, well, it's because we're a green hotel. We support lots of not-for-profits in our community. This is one of them with aligns well with who we are. And then they become very interested in everything else that we're doing. And suddenly, having not cared about our air-to-air heat exchangers, they are of vital interest to them. So the dogs have really been great, again, at opening up conversations around education and sustainability. Next slide, please. So that's it. Thank you very much for having us. I'm thrilled that people are interested in this subject and delighted to be here.
Great. Thank you, Ronnie. Excellent. So I have a couple questions to get us started, and then if folks who are attending have questions, if you want to put them in the chat, we'll take your questions after we start with a few of our own. So the first is related to sustainability versus regenerative tourism. Many hotels and resorts have made significant strides in sustainability, but regenerative tourism goes beyond minimizing impact. It aims to leave a place better than it was before. Can you each share an example of how your properties are moving beyond traditional sustainability efforts to actively improve the local environment or community? I think you've already touched on that, but if you have some other examples, I'd love to hear them. Haben, Ronnie, would you like to begin?
Yeah, sure.
Great, thanks.
I just was talking about habitat restoration, so I think that's where our big push is for sure. But I also think that support for schools, buying books that schools are having trouble buying right now, all of that is really points to regenerative tourism as well. So
Excellent, thank you. Haben?
Yeah, I think, like Ronnie said, a lot of the stuff both of our hotels are doing leads into a lot of regenerative hospitality and tourism. One of the things that's new for us this year is we have decided that each year we are going to host 5 events for nonprofits. And that is new to us. We always, had inquiries here and there, but with our event space, we weren't really able to make it work. So we're putting that as an initiative going forward. So this year coming up, I believe we have Sweetser on the books. So we're really excited to do an event for them. They work with mental health with children. We're actually doing an event in May with them to raise money for mental health awareness. We are doing stuff with York Land Trust. That will be next year. They're having their anniversary. So those events, while maybe not our cause or our nonprofit, but we can lend a space and lend a voice for people to connect to those other things is one of the things that we're working on this year to kind of connect the community. And with those, when we're hosting those events, we're giving our guests options who might not know anything about the York Land Trust or about Sweetser, an opportunity to connect because that event's being hosted on our property and they're able to kind of connect with those in that way.
That's fantastic. Thank you. So balancing luxury and sustainability. Both of your properties cater to guests seeking high quality, memorable experiences. How do you strike a balance between offering luxury amenities and maintaining environmentally responsible practices? Have you faced any challenges in guest expectations and how have you navigated those?
I'm happy to go first if you want, Ronnie.
Sure.
So I think, it might be counter to everyone's, initial thoughts, but a lot of times when you're investing in sustainable products or materials, they usually do feel more luxury. So when we created our shoreside rooms using stone and poured concrete, and having those big windows, those items, while they have a benefit for sustainability, they actually feel more luxury. Those big windows are fantastic for the view, but they're also helping with heating and cooling. And the poured concrete floor with, those kinds of things help. So guests are actually experiencing luxury without even realizing that there was a thought process behind that sustainable choice at that moment. Same thing with our cleaning products or with our amenities in their room. Like, people seek out clean ingredients, those things that are better for them. So when we have a guest checking in, they're actually more excited to see that we have a clean product or that we have an option for composting, because it shows that we care. And if we care about the trash bag that goes in our trash can, then we've probably really thought out every step of the guest experience, every moment, everything that they touch and interact with. Someone has thought about and made a conscious decision to do that. So I think we've never really run into any um, real complaints or any holdup where people are like, oh, you don't do this or you do this. I think the biggest thing is probably the canned water. I think some people are like, oh, water in a can, that feels so bizarre. But I think that's becoming more and more popular, as like a go to go option, because we do, while all of our guests check out, we offer them to go water for their trip. You don't want to be sending them with bottles. We can't really be sending them with glass. So aluminum is a great option for that. I think that's the only thing, but a lot of people are like, oh, that's so cool. Not a disappointment. So overall, I think it's the decisions that we make do lead to a better, more luxury guest experience.
Great.
I don't think that there's any conflict with luxury and being sustainable at all. And I also think it is much easier to follow through on sustainable programming for operations than it used to be. I know we've been composting for 20 years, and when we started 20 years ago, there was no composting available anywhere. Um, and now there is. There are lots of options. But we started working with a farmer. We had to find him and go through it all. So, a lot of what we do is just more available now and makes it a little easier to do some of these things than it was 24 years ago. But no, we don't have guest complaints. They are looking for a wellness, where they can feel well, where they can go and really feel that we're making every effort to preserve and protect the place that they love to visit. So I don't think there's a conflict.
Fantastic. Um, so the last question I have is related to the future of sustainable hospitality in Maine. With Maine's tourism industry continuing to grow, what do you see as the next big opportunities or challenges for sustainability and hospitality? Are there any innovative practices, policies, or partnerships you believe will help shape the future of eco-conscious travel in the state? It would,
I think a lot of it goes back to people really working with their legislators to make changes. One of the things that I think everybody will admit is that we don't have enough public transportation that is easy for both staff and workers and locals and our guests to use. Everybody, Maine is so rural and there's very little public transportation. So I think there's a lot that we can do with our legislators to really work on this. And then I think we can also, Maine Office of Tourism, Visit Portland, they're all working to really try and combat over tourism by making it possible for people to move out into the areas that have fewer tourists and really need the income, and try and get the pressure taken off the areas that are overpopulated with tourism. So there's a lot that we can do if we just work together.
Yeah, I
great.
think I think Ronnie said it for sure. The getting policy involved is going to be huge. I think that's something that we can all work on. So, local government, small business, all coming together to make those policy changes, thoughtful development, better infrastructure, education too, not just for people like Ronnie and I who are, creating programming at our hotels, but in schools as well, that education and starting there, I think that really helps. I think the goal is ultimately that we all want to protect what makes Maine so special, the reason people travel here. And we want to make those efforts to be community centered, locally informed, that long term stewardship, not just short term solutions and stuff.
Great. There are a couple of questions in the chat. So Carol has a question for Haven. Who designed and installed your native plant gardens?
That is a great question. I know her name is Kelsey, who we work with, but I don't remember the name of the landscaper. She actually used to work with us, but I can definitely find that answer and follow up. But they did a whole landscape plan for that.
Okay, great. And then Kathy has a question as well. Do you feel that you are leaders in these actions, or are a good percentage of similarly placed hotels undertaking similar paths?
Is that directly for me or for
That's
both?
for either of you or both of you.
I think it's hard to, like I said, and I think sustainability is definitely a journey and not necessarily a checklist. I think there's certain things that you can do at certain points, whether you're doing a renovation like both of our properties did, where it makes sense to do everything you can at that point, but it doesn't always make sense for every business to not need to do a renovation and tear down all their walls just to replace it with 70% reused material. So those decisions are it's kind of hard to compare. I think with the capacity at which we have to be sustainable, I think we're doing well. I think we've made a lot of really good decisions, and we kind of lead with that when we are making decisions. Are we doing the absolute best that we can? I don't think anyone can say that, because the goalpost is always moving. There's always more that you can do, and that's the beautiful thing about this industry and about sustainability is it's such an innovative class that there is going to be more that you can always do. So I wouldn't say that we are the best or a leader, but I think we're doing the best that we can, and we feel good about the decisions that we're making, and the progress that we're making, with the acknowledgement that we know that there is always more that we can do.
Great.
Yeah, and there are, we're certainly not alone. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we were more alone than we are now. But even then, there were hotels that were really working on sustainability. Inn by the Sea is, as I mentioned, a member of Beyond Green, and that is a portfolio of 36 hotels in 18 countries around the world. And they all do really remarkable things, but they're doing things that are really unique to their area. We have this beautiful coastal location. Some of the hotels that belong to this group are in Africa, and they are actually picking up and moving tusked elephants, thousands of miles across Africa by helicopter to bring them back to their original stomping grounds where they were hunted to extinction, but now there's a park that will protect them. So people are doing incredible things. Just they really align with where they're located and what that location needs. So there's some wonderful things going on in hospitality, really working on sustainability. We could use a lot more innovative and people doing this. And Haven is absolutely right. It's kind of like peeling an onion. You just go layer to layer, then you peel one layer and then you see 36 or more layers that you should be working on. So it never ends.
Well, I applaud the work that your inns are doing to address the environment and to make a difference. I guess the places I've stayed previously, I didn't see that evidence of such creativity in what you're doing. It's very inspiring. So thank you for being here and sharing your experiences and knowledge with us. I think that was the last question that was recorded, unless anyone has anything additional they'd like to add. Anyone last minute questions to put in the chat? Okay, great. Well, thank you both. And this program has been recorded, so it will be available on the library's YouTube channel later this week. So spread the word, let others know about this great work that's happening. And thank you both again. Thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have a great evening, everyone.